Okay, how about if I read Julie Borowski's article? Borowski, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Any mispronunciation is not intentional. This is from October 8th, which I do believe is today,
Mm-hmm.
in the Libertarian Republic at libertarianrepublic.com. We'll try to get a link to this in the low bar later. And Julie Borowski writes an article, What the Rights Movement Gets Right and Wrong. And here, and I'm let everybody know, I'm attempting to do this without my glasses, and I'm pushing 60. So if I screw up, too bad. As a critic of feminism, I've checked out the men's rights movement, MRM. Some things I like, some things not so much. They have good points when it comes to divorce, custody, and how courts are biased towards women. These are real equality issues that need to be addressed. Also, I dislike how men have become the punchline in today's society. Just check out commercials and sitcoms. The husbands are portrayed as complete idiots with the maturity of 5-year-olds. The wives, on the other hand, are brilliant personality-less parental figures to their dumb husbands. Personality-less. That's a tough one, Julie. Okay. One of my pet peeves is how it's somehow acceptable to insult your husband in public. Ha ha. I don't know how he dresses himself in the morning. It's laughable when a woman does it. The other way around, that wouldn't fly. Now, I'm going to stop at this point before she goes on and point out these are things, and I understand that you have to assume that your reader doesn't know much, particularly on a forum that's not dedicated to men's rights. But I feel like it's important to point out here that these issues that she's addressed here, while they're very important issues, particularly divorce and custody and the bias in those areas, they're real important issues, but they are barely scratching the surface. There is really anybody can relate to this. Anybody that's ever been to a family court is going to see this. But in understanding the men's rights movement, she's failed. That is a small slice of issues. We just discussed with Hannah, gynocentrism, other matters that are a big part of this movement, the limitations of gender roles that are placed on men, the expectations that are placed on men. So Julie is, while she's writing this for an audience that doesn't know a whole lot, I don't think she's getting to the meat of the matter from the beginning. Anyway, she goes on to say, then I check out men's rights activist forums. Oh boy. Well, I'm going to have to stop here again. This is Adam Serwer journalism. I'm just going to call it like I see it. And again, I say this as somebody that's a tremendous fan of this woman. I love what she does. I think she's a very articulate voice, very intelligent, and very, very in your face and dramatic. And anybody that knows that knows me knows I like that stuff. But why isn't she saying, I checked out men's rights activists by talking to them? Why this lazy, sort of sloppy approach to say, I'm going to go read some comments on the internet and start forming an opinion about a movement which she really doesn't know much about. And she tries to do some damage control with this silly approach by saying, I acknowledge that not every comment represents the whole movement. Of course. Well, yeah, of course, Julie. So why, if you know your source is not representing the movement, okay, fill in the pieces from there. But there's a significant amount of women are gold digging, you know what. Marriage is always a bad deal for men because women are lazy moochers. Julie, I'm not even going to read the rest of that out loud. Well, yeah, I will. I should, in all fairness. People should know. Women wear makeup to trick you into procreating with them. They are liars. Whoa. Well, no, the woe, Julie, is for you. It really is. Oh, why are you doing this? I mean, if you want to talk about the men's rights movement, you can come to a place like Honey Badger Radio, which is, like last I checked, almost all women. And I don't think you're going to see that kind of rhetoric coming out of their mouths. You can come to a Voice for Men, where we boot people regularly. If somebody comes onto our forum and makes that kind of statement, and we are, and it's not brag, it's just fact, we're recognized as, I think, the flagship of the men's rights movements online. And we boot people for making statements like that. I mean, and usually without anything more than we give them one slight warning and say, knock it off. And if they even test that in the least, they're gone. And so this is disingenuous. I'm not liking this. She says, it just reminds of man-hating feminists who talk about all men being cheating scumbags and implying that all men are rapists. No, fail again, Julie, fail again. The fact of the matter is that out of the feminist rhetoric that you're citing comes from people that are feminist icons, like Andrea Dworkin, like Catherine McKinnon, like Susan Brown Miller. I mean, go down the line. Every major second wave and even first wave feminist icon that you can study in current gender studies courses are people who have made these kind of remarks and pushed this kind of philosophy. This is coming from feminism's leadership, Julie, not from the comments. Well, even though you see it in comments, and you certainly see it in places like Tumblr and what have you, but it is not representative. What you're talking about with men's rights activists is not representative of our movement in the least, and you've produced zero evidence to point that out. And she continues on, both of these groups. Now, see, here's the literary tactic. Lump them both together. She's established that we're no different than feminists, so now she can address us as one amalgamation of hateful people that hate the opposite sex, like she knows. Both of these groups have clearly been burnt by the opposite sex.
This is not a matter of sour grapes. That's exactly what she's saying is, oh, it's a bunch of sour grapes. No, this is not a matter of sour grapes. Right at the top, I don't understand why she would even say that. And when right at the top of the article, she lists all those various things that the men's rights movement actually addresses.
Yes, but the only example that she's given is people saying that women are whores. This is embarrassingly sloppy for her. For somebody like her that usually presents very, very cogent arguments that are well thought out, well articulated, this is just plain sloppy. She says both of these groups have clearly been burned by the opposite sex. Julie, I mean, it's like I'm getting to every sentence here and I'm wanting to bang my head on my desk. Julie, guess what? I would say probably at some time in their lives, 90-95% of all people have been burned by the opposite sex. It's a matter of human reality that we get into relationships and that they fail, that there are resentments, that people fall short, that people mistreat each other. That is a reality. But what you're doing here is trying to paint men's rights activists. We have, I got a tweet from a guy in India today where a banker in India was so abused by his wife that he killed himself. And it's in a major Indian news story right now. There has been similar stories like that in the United States over and over and over again. This isn't malcontents speaking, Julie. You're so far off base. Again, it's embarrassing. And she confirms that by saying, what heterosexual person hasn't been? Well, guess what, Julie? Homosexual persons have been burnt too. But that's sort of beside the point. They are taking it to an unhealthy place and blaming an entire gender for crappy things someone did. No, Julie, I'm taking it to the place I am, and I'm honestly, with all respect, blaming people like you for going in sloppily with a seining net and scooping up a bunch of internet comments from non-activists, from people who are not involved in doing this work, and trying to characterize everybody with that, trying to tarnish everybody with that. It's beneath you. You should issue an apology for this article. She says Julia Tarnowski recently made a well-balanced video about MRAs. She took some heat for it. Judging from the YouTube comments, the most controversial part of her video was when she talked about domestic violence. Let me scroll down here. Now, many MRAs, the video is embedded in there, by the way. Now, many MRAs will say that there is a double standard in our society when it comes to violence. A woman can hit a man, but a man can't hit a woman. Let me dig into this one. Well, glad, Julie, thank God you're digging into something. Is it ever acceptable for a man to hit a woman? Some people will say never, ever. If it's never okay, no matter what. My answer, which is the same if you ask me if it's ever acceptable for anyone to hit anyone, is yes, for self-defense. We'll see what happens when you start digging, Julie, and start thinking. You actually come out and start saying sensible things. But let's go on. I'm very pro self-defense. If a woman has the potential to do real damage, then yeah, you've got to do what you got to do to protect yourself. If she's coming at you with a knife or a frying pan, then clearly fight back. Well, guess what, Julie? That's wrong. If she's coming at you at all, you should be able to fight back. If a man is coming after a woman at all, she should have the right to defend herself. Let's go back to the logic you were already displaying and are now undermining before we continue reading this article. But self-defense should also include common sense and examining the threat. I fully acknowledge that women who, in the heat of an argument, will push and slap try to provoke the situation. This is beyond stupid, and she's wrong for doing so. Seriously, stop that. Is it acceptable for a man to hit a woman in that situation? Some MRAs will say he has every right and should hit back. Common sense says no. No, it doesn't.
Eyes, ears, nose, throat. Okay?
Yeah.
It does not take a whole hell of a lot to affect those areas of the body. And those areas of the body are vital for sensing our environment or for life itself. So I don't care if I've got a 100-pound woman coming up to me. If she begins to lay her hands on me, I must assume the threat exists, because all it will take is a fingernail to the eye.
Oh, come on,
or
James.
A punch to the throat.
Why don't you man up, dude?
Hey,
God damn! I mean, Jesus, James.
Am I to make an assumption of this woman's experience and training? Am I to make an assumption of that? That's what I'm saying. Is when you're faced with that type of thing, you don't make assumptions. Here's one for you. If I've got a 70-pound dog coming after me, do I go, oh, it's just a 70-pound dog? Hell no. I'm going to
stand on the dining room table.
I'm going to fight or I'm going to run, okay?
Yep.
And if I'm going to fight, then I'm going to fight to finish the fight as quickly as possible. And that is, and most women weigh well over 100 pounds, especially in today's society. Quite a few weighing over 200 in today's society. Am I to assume that mass does not come with significant threat? This is not am I to assume that their greater intellect as compared to the dogs does not come with significant threat? So
what she's suggesting here, I think, James, is that if you're under attack, that what you need to do is first, set aside your instinct to protect yourself and think about what the possible consequences are of what you can inflict in a way that you can't predict. You cannot predict whether or not a 100-pound woman is going to come out with a paring knife and stab you with it. All you know at the moment is that you're being attacked. And all of this garbage that she's espousing here is predicated on the idea that women are harmless and that men need to react differently to an attack from a woman than they would from a man. And she offers no real rationale for
right. Anybody who has had any kind of combat training simply knows that that is bullshit.
Yep. So sorry, Julie, but you're failing here. You're seeing this again. You're playing the typical, what I would call a gynocentrist perspective of, oh, she's only a woman. She's only 100 pounds. Men have been killed. Look at Jodi Arias. For fuck's sake, look at Jodi Arias. She looks like, to me, like she weighs 100 pounds soaking wet. And she brutally murdered a man. And it starts with low levels of violence every time in relationships. It starts with low levels of violence. And what you're doing is you're saying, oh, yeah, I really believe people have the right to self-defend. But here, for men, I want you to tie your hands behind your back until you can establish that it's a real threat. And, oh, by the way, if it turns out it's too late and you get really hurt or you get killed, well, then sorry, my bad. Well, I'm sorry, Julie, that's not good enough. You're not making sense. And, of course, you'd have probably figured that out if you'd actually talked to an MRA before you wrote this POS article. Let's continue on. We're nearly done here. Once again, examining the threat. I'm sorry. I'm former military. James is former military. James, what part of your training said that when you were under attack, you were supposed to examine the threat?
No, it's when you're under attack, you take that threat out in the most efficient way you can.
Or you and your friends die.
Correct.
And it's that cut and dried. And I'm not comparing domestic violence to a actual, combat zone. But what I'm saying is that some of the principles still apply. And by the way, Julie, if these women that you're saying should be treated with kit gloves had learned to keep their fucking hands to themselves, none of this would have to be discussed. It's really that simple. If you don't hit people, it just miraculously, drastically reduces your tendency to get hit back. I don't know. I that's sort of like radical thinking.
Yeah, surprisingly, other than in training, I don't think I've ever had to really hit anybody in almost 20 years.
And I think there's probably something about that related maybe to the fact, James, that you did not hit them first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I haven't had the means to hit anybody. I've had no real reason to do so.
Okay, let's go on now and get through this agonizing.
Oh my God.
Once again, examining the threat in most cases, the man is not physically threatened. You don't know what you're fucking talking about, Julie. You're not in that situation at the time, and it doesn't matter whether he can ascertain that or not. If he can ascertain he's under attack, he has a right to defend themselves. Fucking deal with it. Unless your girlfriend is Ronda Rousey. Oh my God, this just keeps getting worse. I read this once, and now that I'm stopping piece by piece, I'm realizing how bad this piece is. Since men tend to be stronger than women, punching her would be an excessive use of force. Way overkill. Well,
hey, let's not say anything. Let's not say anything about potential for hidden weapons. Let's not say anything about her speed and dexterity. Let's not say anything about her relative intellect. Let's not say anything about her base knowledge of anatomy. Let's just go ahead and throw all that out the window and just compare, brute strength to brute strength. I'll tell you right now, it does not take a whole lot of brute strength to separate my eyeball from my head or to crush my windpipe. It does not take a whole hell of a lot of brute strength.
Or to disable you through your testicles.
Or to disable me momentarily through my solar plexus and then go for some other weak point. It does not take a whole hell of a lot of brute strength to hit good pressure points. So what am I supposed to do? Just stand there and let that occur? And then when I'm gasping and wheezing and deciding, well, maybe I should hit her back now, and next thing I know, everything goes dark. Hell no.
Forever.
The moment somebody puts their hands upon me, I'm going to react. I'm going to react with as much force as necessary to end the fight.
Yep. And deal with it, Julie. That's the way it ought to be. And it's the way it is in my life, too. If you don't want to be harmed, keep your hands to yourself. She goes on to say there are much better ways to handle this situation, says the woman that has no idea whatsoever what it is like to be in a situation under attack where she feels social and legal pressure not to defend herself. So, Julie, sorry, but shut the fuck up. Restraining her, in other words, taking responsibility for her violence. And look, again, this shows the ignorance. Restraining her to the cop that shows up on the scene is an assault on her. You're going to jail. And in restraining somebody who's being violent to you, you take the risk of them inflicting more damage. Again,
Yeah,
I don't know.
she's automatically assuming all men are these great hulking things with King Kong hands that are reaching for
Yes.
reaching for the little woman and can pick her up. I mean,
Oh, yes.
have you seen the
absolutely.
size of the women that are running around?
No kidding. Oh, yeah, it's sort of like Julie Borowski versus the Terminator. And that defines every situation. It's just fucking stupid. Sorry. Also, that doesn't mean that the woman should face no consequences for her actions. How about dumping her? Well, yeah. I mean, you've returned
She's,
to actually
I'll
some
tell you,
sense.
she's already become violent. What are you gonna do when you say, "Fuck you, bitch, I'm out of here"?
Yes,
What is she gonna do then? I mean,
I think physically dumping her out the front door is a really good idea. Go ahead and put her to the curb with the trash with the rest of them physically. Separation, whatever. Anyway, you're getting into no sense land. Requiring that she gets anger. Like a guy can require that a woman gets anger management training.
you got to stop hitting me. I'm gonna send you to anger management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What fucking world are you living in?
Most
Oh
of
my God.
most of the time, what does that end up doing? Unless it's enforced by a gun, i.e., the police and
Which will
the
be
courts,
pointing them at the man.
right? But I mean, unless it's enforced by a gun, usually when you tell an individual to go to anger management classes because they just got done trying to beat the hell out of you, they're probably going to try to beat the hell out of you again.
Yes, and I don't know if it's occurred to Julie, but I've worked with a lot of violent parents where one or the other has been violent, where the guy's been violent, or the woman, or both have been violent. And my experience with really violent assholes is that you say you need to go to an anger management course. Their answer is "fuck you."
Or let me give you a reason to say that.
Yes, and then I still won't go. And if I do go, I'm beating the fuck out of whoever's doing the class. Julie, my God, come to earth, please. We love you the way you were. This is sad. Okay. Finally, she says, really reevaluate if this is someone that you want to be with, or if they resort to violence when they're angry, because that's not part of a healthy relationship or person. Sorry, Julie, but your authority to tell me about her healthy relationships at this point has expired. I'm still making my mind up on the men's rights movement. We'll see. And the only thing I could suggest, Julie, is that if you really are still making up your mind on the men's rights movement, try talking to men's rights activists. I mean, I know it's a crazy idea. I know that the idea of going in, looking at our platforms, looking at where we stand on issues, looking at the activism we do versus going into Reddit to pull up a few trolls, which may well be feminist for all you know.
Yeah, we see that all the time over on Reddit.
Oh, sure. It happens all the time. Julie, we have this concept in journalism. It's called fact gathering, and it's called vetting, and it's called confirmation and getting your sources. And this is a slightly more dignified version of Monica Hess It's really not helpful, of course, and I will defend to my death for Julie to express her opinion, just like I will with what's her name, Mustafa, and with Big Red, and with every other idiot out there that talks about the men's movement and has no idea what they're talking about. But I think part of the larger lesson here, James, is that, and this is something I was alluding to back in the interview with Hannah, is that being anti-feminist, which Julie clearly is, does not mean you understand jack shit about men's issues. It does not mean you understand anything about gynocentrism, or as we can clearly see here, it may mean you're anti-feminist while being gynocentric to the hilt, which is what Julie's done in this article. It's all about the girl. It's all about protecting the girl, protecting violent women from consequences for their behavior, and offering up your body as a punching bag so that they can have their way and not face any consequences. That won't wash. It'll never wash. Again, for all you pearl clutchers out there that are going to say, oh, man, you're giving the wrong woman a hard time. She's a potential ally. I'm sorry, too friggin' bad. When I see this stuff, I'm going to say stuff about it. And with that, I will shelve my temporary disgust for Julie Borowski and let you have the last word on this story, James.
Even allies are open to criticism.